honor or dishonor as they see fit. So these are the challenges that we are, as a TV station, trying to fight against. And that's not should happen while we reconcile with the Taliban or not. Women should be included. Women should have a say, and how are they going to deal with it? So how are we going to, and women have a voice in saying their opinions about how a country is going to ensure that women are not going to have to deal with a backward, conservative ideology that Afghanistan has suffered from for decades now. If I have a time, I've always been bothered as a child of the underrepresentation of women in managerial or top positions. I can remember a decade ago, there was something in the Parliament of Europe, and I saw only men in suit. And there were rarely any women, and that's not, so this is not a case only in the Eastern world, but this is also in Western world. Although the opportunity is equal for education, for capacity building for men and women, yet there, for some reason, women have a hard time getting to the top positions. And there are different various reasons, and I see one of the reasons women being in terms with the status that they're given. And that's a huge challenge. How are we going to train girls and women to understand that they are more important than that? That they have a better position, they can have a better status than that. And the other thing that I usually also observe is women, because we have been persuaded to think that we are not good enough, that our decisions are not comprehensive enough, and that we have begun to believe that. Now it's taking these beliefs away from women and encouraging them that they are, or some people even believe that women should groom masculine characteristics to be able to be good leaders. So you have to wear suit and have, I don't know, short hair and talk aggressively to be seen as someone who's capable. So we have to work harder. So we have to prove our capabilities. While a man, it's easier because we are seen being them in leadership positions for centuries, and it's seen as something which is much more normal. And a woman, even if she is assertive, we'll look at her as aggressive. If she is loud, we see her as someone we do not like to be around because we have not seen them in those positions. And we have to question ourselves. Why is it that I am nicer to a man leader, but I'm not as nice to a woman leader? When I see women in leadership positions, instead of me supporting her, I would challenge her in any way possible. Also being a woman, because it's not the role I have known her for. She is kind, she gives me food, she clothes me, she cleans, but wow, she's gonna guide me, she's gonna be the strategic thinker who's gonna guide me and support me and bring a team together to accomplish something that we as a team or a company have to accomplish. And that's something we rarely have seen a woman in. We have to now, women should change seeing themselves and see themselves in women and leadership positions, and men accepting that women, just because she has been doing these other jobs, does not disqualify her from these other positions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sitara. That's a very interesting point you made there, that not only do we have to get used to the fact that women are going to be present there, they're going to be present in far greater numbers and in far greater leadership positions, we also have to get used to the fact on how to treat them as leaders, because the definitions are not going to work if you're going to treat women, try to fit them in little tiny boxes. Nistula made a very interesting intervention. She said that there has to be targeted intervention to make conditions for women to rise. But of late we've seen even a legislation like allowing 6 months maternity leave to women is actually held against them. Dr. Kumaramangalam, you would see a lot of employers actually, they actually hold it against women when you have legislation that says, oh, you can take 6 months off. So what do you do in situations like that?
Yeah, when that law was first introduced, I have a very good friend who's one of the biggest leaders in healthcare, not a doctor, but runs one of the biggest chain of hospitals. And she told me that, this is a very bad law because I have so many nurses, most of my nurses are women, and I'm going to think twice about it because now I have to pay for 6 months leave. And we had a big argument over it. Eventually she agreed to what I was saying because she herself has 3 children. But it is a fact that merely legislation is not enough to bring about a change in the way of thinking. Implementation is far more important, which is why we need to start teaching children very young. There's something that I always tell my children, the way we potty train our children, right from the age of 6 months or whatever it is, we need to actually change the way we think about each other. It shouldn't be about male versus female, like I say. It's not always the boy who needs to be the bully. Girls can be aggressive. Like she said, this whole thing about male versus female now needs to be stopped when we start talking about empowerment. Basically, I feel that, like I said, it's equal opportunity. Some will come up, some won't. And it will not eventually, not immediately, it'll take some time. It will not matter whether you're a woman or a man. In today's present situation, more than the laws, it's the implementation which suffers in India. Some of our laws are some of the toughest laws you can find anywhere in the world. Whether it is the Sexual Harassment at the Workplace Act, whether it is the 496A, which is always being complained against by men. The point is that it's in the implementation that we have problems. The first time you go to a police station, you'll be asked, are you exaggerating? It's even today, even other women question women. If you see what happened with that young actress who was on a plane, I think last week, Twitter was absolutely ablaze with comments about how because she's an actress and because she's young and everybody was trying to defend the man. Now I don't know who's wrong or who's right there, but the point is that she should have been taken, she should have been given the benefit of the doubt. Especially given the sort of background that most women come from across the world. Believe me, it's not as if Delhi is the rape capital of the world. I've actually dealt with statistics. If you look at statistics of rape in the American universities, and they're almost always suppressed, you'd be absolutely astounded. The fact is that given the background that we come from, very, very few women, and I don't even think even one actually, will come out and tell you that I have been sexually abused or harassed if she actually hasn't. It creates a backlash for her that is very difficult to live through. The questions that are asked of her, anyway, are you dressed well? What were you doing? Why were you sitting with your hand on somebody's shoulder? Is that boy your boyfriend? Who is he to you? You may have grown up with this person, he may be an extremely good friend, but no, it'll always be colored in a sexual way. And this is done by both men and women. Patriarchy is not the domain of men. Equal number of women are patriarchal, and sometimes I feel they're in fact more bitter against women who have managed to break boundaries and the so-called proverbial glass ceiling, as she said very rightly, than perhaps even men are. You will find, but I do find that if you give women decision-making powers, over a period of time, not immediately, just like she said about the Panchayati Raj system. 25 years ago, we had a lot more Sarpanch Patis than we have now. Today, we have women who used to be in Parda who say that, no, but I want to do it. I know that the power does teach you, power does change you, and power does teach you how advantageous it is to have it. So change is there in the air in India. It's not that it isn't. Yeah, the pace is very slow, but to come back to what you asked me, I think it's more about implementation. So if you're talking about interventions, more than targeted interventions, you need to look at perhaps, things that will make this sort of change sustainable. Okay, more diffused interventions, if that's what you want to say. Yeah, now sexual harassment is something very different. Sexual harassment, according to me, it should be that anything that makes anybody uncomfortable. People like me in my generation, we've got used to having all sorts of innuendos, made, and we accepted it because it was part of the norm, which I think today is very wrong. But your generation does not accept it, which I think is very good. So,
this point, I think we should get in a male voice. I mean, it's only fair
Yes,
to hear from the men now.
I was wanting to say that
So
perhaps,
can
we need to have
Rangana?
male reactions to these.
So can we have the mics, please? Can we?
Hi, Anand Ranganathan here. This is
I was hoping you would ask a question.
wonderful discussion. My question is to Ms. Sitara. Ms. Sitara, it's wonderful what you've done in Afghanistan, but without wishing to be patronizing, please don't take it the wrong way. Can you dress like this in your country when you're broadcasting?
Yes, she's just fine.
Well, that's a valid question. I have been asked that a lot. And yes, because, well, I dress like this and I don't wear headscarf when I am in my residence and I am at work. And most of the meetings, I'm not wearing a headscarf. And it's not because I want to, and it's a very sensitive issue to talk about. Because when I go like this, people will say, how? So are you trying to westernize the Afghan women? No. What I'm trying to do is let the women know that they can make their own choices. That's a basic human right. If I like to be dressed this way, I should be allowed so. If I want to wear a burqa, I should be allowed so. This is a choice of myself. Nobody else should make that choice for me. Clothing is one thing, but it represents a lot of other deeper issues. It represents that I can have the choice to choose to marry whoever I want, when I want to marry, how many children I'm going to bring to the world, where I'm going to work, which field of work I'm going to choose, whether I want to be a pilot or I want to be a policewoman. That is something that should be given to a woman to choose. So I, by decision, dress like this to make other women feel that they too can do whatever they want to do once they are an adult. Thank you.
One more question? The last question, actually.
Yeah, the gentleman in the middle with his hand up. Oh, there are two gentlemen.
Yeah, my question relates to an observation you made some time back. So why do you object when we give 6 months maternity leave to when? I don't object to how much time you get as maternity leave and all. But the point is, if it is the implicit assumption in this law is that childcare is women's work. And I would have been more appreciative, even if you had given a year's leave, and I say this leave has to be shared by you and your spouse, depending on who decides to do the caregiving. I mean, apart from the 1 month that you need immediately after delivery for a recovery, why should a man not be participant in the same leave so that his paternal role comes in early? I mean, I don't see why it should only be a maternity leave. Simple.
We completely agree with you. In fact, men should take more leave. You know, they have an equal responsibility in bringing up the babies. So we completely agree with you. So on that note, thank you very much. We've had an interesting discussion here. And next time there's a panel discussion of this sort, we hope to have more men on.
And we'd also like it not to be the last one in 3 days.
Thank you, Ms. Preeti. May I now request Ms. Smriti to kindly felicitate our panelists. Srimati Lalita Kumar Mangalam. Ms. Nistula Hebbar. Ms. Satara Hassan. Now may I request Ms. Temsantala Imsong to kindly felicitate our moderator, Ms. Smriti Kak. Thank you all. May I kindly request everyone to remain seated. We are beginning with the valedictory session at the moment.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to request all of you to settle down as we are about to begin the valedictory session of the 4th Idea India Conclave. Thank you.